then Teso, and Acholi, and Lango, and Bugisu, and Sebei will erupt in chaos and violence. Any mention about Karamoja issues in the Interreligious Council of Uganda? Oh, we are looking to other sides. Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Archbishop of Karamoja Diocese. And yes, your question will be commented on. I remember going to school. Gayaza High School was brilliant. My roommates were from all over. We had Catholics, we had Anglicans, we had Muslims. Yes, so, and I would love to see that continue. So it's sad if a child was dropped because she or he was the wrong religion. We had a question. Yes, there you are.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. A little bit on that, I experienced it in one of the prominent schools in this country, where my son had been admitted. Unfortunately, he was expelled in a funny way because he was the son of a prominent pastor in Kampala. I tried it out, called the one, because it is under the Anglican Church. I called the bishop just to help me and see how we can sort it in senior 3. Unfortunately, the ground was not leveled for him to do anything. So that's a big thing that needs to be worked on if we are to proceed and go somewhere. I was so bitter, but because I am supposed to forgive, I forgave. But that was not my point. My point was the good thing Justice Ogola is here, but the previous speaker. My name is Bishop Buyondo, the Bishop of Kampala, Born Again Faith. My issue was about the land for the previous speaker who represented the Buganda Kingdom. The IGG is here, is my witness, because she's been in the lands ministry. Land has become a problem in this country. When you go to all courts of law, land is the issue. When you go to everywhere in the prisons, the people that are there, it's because of land. The Buganda Kingdom is saying that the land tenure system in Buganda, which is the mile land, is being discussed right now because it is a Buganda problem. I come from Luwero. I have titles of land. Unfortunately, my father did not own land. He owned the Chibanja, of which I inherited. But when I tell you the problems I've gone through, if it wasn't because people hear me, I'm vocal here and there, even my father wouldn't be there right now where we buried him, because of the land becoming a commodity in this country. When I was doing economics, they told me that land is a factor of production. But these days, land has become a commodity to sell and get profit, which has taken this country into a problem that we are going through all this. My question to my fellow delegates and to Justice Ogola, who has been here more than I, and all the elders that are here, what solution do we have? Because one time we saw the Anglican bishops who were almost burnt in Mukono because of land that belongs to the Church of Uganda. What solutions do we have as religious leaders helping the politicians to solve the land problem in this country? Because today it's in Uganda, but it is expanding to all over the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Grace Mwangu-Steune from Interfaith Women of Uganda and Born Again Faith. My concern is about Professor Pamela's paper. It was an earlier session. And she was talking about the challenge that government has just identified with the development process of Uganda, that is compartmentalization of the sectors of government, which is a big, big challenge, because each one has got their agenda, each one has got their approach, each one has got their strategies, and so it leaves development in a haphazard mode. And so I'm suggesting that since IRCU, religious institutions, are the ones who really know about this integrated approach of us being spiritual beings, having a mind and living in a body. We know so much about holism, holistic approach, the integrated approach. I think the government needs to borrow a leaf from IRCU, religious institutions. Moreover, they are the ones who started provision of social services in Uganda. So we need, I've found that many times religious institutions have been bundled up in the private sector. I don't think we belong there. We have a unique role to play. And I don't want to repeat yesterday's messages. We have a unique and sacred role to play in the process of development of this country. We should not be just bundled up in the private sector, but government should find more ways. And us here, probably this is what we are supposed to do these 2 days, find out ways of dialogue, of working together between government and religious institutions, instead of religious institutions being put aside as politicians. They don't know what they are meddling with. We should find ways of working together. That's my point.
Blessings again, Bishop Dr. Julius Peter Yet, and IRCU Board, Born Again Faith Deputy Chair. Thank you, Justice Ogola. Certainly, TEFO and Intelligence Council of Uganda would pilot us to a destiny we desire. It is a prophetic clarity that a writing is on the wall as far as the national dialogue is concerned. Because somebody is not happy, and that passion plays a big percentage of what should happen and what should not happen in your days and our days. As I brought a suggestion, a proposal yesterday, so do I dare prophetically to stand in humility among my elders and my colleagues? That Chairman Justin Ogola, could we please, and the Council of Presidents of Intelligence Council of Uganda, introduce something besides national dialogue, so that we do two things and the other one might be on a greater eatable, enjoyable plate for all. And that thing is called NDD, National Development Dialogue. In August 2018, the president of this country toured the country and came back and did an official communication that he felt it wise to divide Uganda into 20 zones, clockwise from West Nile to Bunjibujo. That is across Uganda. And these are West Nile, Madi, Acholi, Lango, Karamoja, Teso, Bugisu, Sebe, Bukedi, Busoga, Kampala, Wakiso, Mubende, Masaka, Ankole, Chigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Kasese, and Bunjibujo. If we would cluster people into 20 groups brought about by the president and let them discuss development of what is best for Acholi, for the Teso, which is futuristic, discussing the future development of Uganda, other than history, who burned the Itesot in a Moria train wagon? Who is responsible for the death of many people in Balonyo? Was it the NRA, or was it the LRA, or was it the UPDF? How about the 40 heaps of corpses in Konakelak? History is full of dirty, rotten, stingy bones that separate us. But if we focus ourselves in discussing development for the future of the younger generation, we will leave Uganda a better place than we found it, other than discussing who broke my leg. I submit. I'm Julius Peter yet. Blessings.
Hello? Yes. Thank you very much, Julius. That's a great submission. Justice Ogola will respond to that. The lady here, please. And I think we will need to stop there. There were some questions that were on your table that were suggestions of where I hope the discussion would go. But please, you have the floor now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kigozi, for seeing my hand. I've been putting my hand behind this flower. Oh, no one could. I had to stand up. Thank you so much. I want to respond to 2 or 3 things. The first one is about the issue of land. This land issue is not only in Kampala. It is not only about Uganda. I am Florence Kwesigabo. I'm the National Programs and Women Coordinator at Uganda Episcopal Conference. So I go everywhere. I have been to every village in Uganda. I network in 3,800 parishes. So I have had these things everywhere. Land is a very hot cake today, and no joking business in every smallest even community. The woman I work with in Kotido was hit on the head and died because she bought a plot in town by her own husband. So the issue of land is not only in Uganda. It is just because some people cannot be heard. That is, some people cannot talk. New Vision does not go there and capture some. Sometimes they report, but it is not made an issue. So please, let us work together fighting these evils and not say that until it is your turn. It is the turn of everybody. So don't think it is only one side. Another thing, yes, thank you very much for realizing that it is not only one place which is suffering land issues. Another thing is this issue of schools. I heard a woman in the on TV saying that government should take over all Catholic schools. A woman on TV, I don't know her, but I saw it on TV. I was saying take over and do what? Instead of government building its own schools, why do you want to take over other people's things? And then where do those who work there go? So I want us to work as faith leaders. And then this issue of children in schools, sometimes a child does not, I have a background of teaching. I have served in high institutions. So I know these issues of admitting and sacking children. One thing is that if a board has said we want aggregate 5, and your child gets 10 or whatever, that child can only go there on regional, they call it regional something. If it is not from, for example, those good schools are always around here in Central. So if your child is coming from maybe Kabale or Kotido and has 10, and the religious leader of those regions writes, they will take your child. One time my son was admitted to a very good school. I went there, and there was a pastor who was questioning what the headmaster is going to do about their children who are not of the faith of that school. The headmaster's response was that it was not his business to recruit children to his faith. All children who have come there have come to do what? To study. I followed up this boy. I put there people to follow up this boy. He was selling in Jaga. He sold in Jaga, and my son had to leave that school. I took him to Namgongo from a very good school. I removed him. So I want us to know that sometimes they talk about our children and we refuse to believe. In my culture, they say, Kalimonokinoka pega. Yes, they used to tell me and I would not believe.
Can you translate it?
That is exactly what I've said. They used to tell me about my son and I would not believe. Okay. Then the other thing about the lady who presented, I want just to thank her for the presentation. I've been complaining that where has government passed with the N1, NP 1, 2, now 3, they have reached us religious leaders. Because when she said macro, I realized that the government was busy with other things. I recall asking the president here, that Mr. President, you are busy rehabilitating roads, what? What about the souls of people who watched all of these atrocities and so on? He said, no, that area is for church. Then I've been waiting. I work with the church. I've been there so long. But I was not seeing anything coming to me as a leader of over 6 million women. I was not seeing anything. So he said that part is for the what? Religious leaders. Members, IRCU. Now that this NP3 concerns us at household level. Parish model, I'm a champion of parish model. But I want to see where it is going to pass. First of all, household, if we do whatever we are doing, and we don't blow the fire from the base, and that is in the household, we are wasting our time.
Thank you.
As long as we continue to have men who don't know what their children are eating, and women who don't know where their children are, we are wasting our time. So I'm saying that the parish model concerns us. The church is a very powerful engine. A church transforms. A church has connectivity of all walks of life of people. The church is ever enduring. You hear? People are
Thank you,
fighting
Madam.
church, but church is still there.
We actually know, we are all impressed with the church today. So you don't need to take us through.
No. I
20
am just
years
thanking
we've
you.
done wonderful.
I'm thanking you for allowing me to say something, but I want us to concentrate on NP3 because we have to transform people at home. How is a man living inside his home? How is a mother living there and children? Thank you so much for allowing me to talk.
Okay. I want to recognize Father Mbonabenji, Secretary General of Uganda Joint Christian Council, who is also with us today. You are welcome. And of course, our IGG is in the house, Betty. Tiromwe Kamia, you are very welcome. She's one of your speakers, so she will be addressing you soon. I want to ask, who's going to answer? Yes, please. Canon. To answer some of those questions. We have another opportunity to ask more questions after the next session. So let us continue, otherwise we will run out of time. Thank you. Canon Kaiso, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished delegates, you have received a copy of 2 sheets talking about the breakaway sessions. We have tried to capture some of the emerging issues into questions, and you'll find that if you go to sheet number 2, there are topics there and the groups. We have 5 groups. The first group will be dealing with the role of religious leaders in promoting active citizen participation in social accountability. Group number 2 will be addressing the challenge of maternal health and HIV. Group 3 will be addressing issues of innovation, youth programs, and dialogue. Group number 4 will be looking at issues of sustainable development goals. Group number 5 will be looking at progress on the Uganda National Dialogue process. Now, the intention here is that we'll have the space to be able to engage with some of these questions. Some presentations have already been made. After my presentation, there will be other presentations that are going to be made. So we request you to identify a theme that you are interested in. That's the group. And that's the group where you belong. Choose the topic that you're interested in. That will be the group that you belong to when we come to the breakaway sessions. We will share some more questions, since some of these questions have come up here, may not have been captured in the original plan. So we beg that when that time comes to go in our groups, we will have set up stations where each group will be meeting, and then we'll begin that process of engaging with the emerging issues. Thank you very much.
Reverend Kaiso. So you will have an opportunity, all of you, to contribute more seriously in the breakaway groups on the various issues that you have raised. But those who have raised them already here, maybe I can ask Canon to just respond to one or two. And he have a microphone. He doesn't want to be here. He wants to be with the youth and the women on the other side. Do you have a microphone? Thank you. Canon will also have an opportunity during the breakout session on the national dialogue to be with you.
Thank you. I'll take the three questions by three bishops. Bishop Karamoja, Bishop Uyondo, Bishop Oyet. What a war here. The war of the bishops and a single judge. Karamoja has always been a very special region in Uganda's life. Right from independence, before independence. I remember in my studies, Karamoja was ruled on a different wavelength. The rest of Uganda was ruled differently by the colonials. And whenever there was any rebellion, for instance, someone here in the central court in a bad criminal case, they would be taken to refuge in Karamoja, exiled there. That unfortunately has persisted for quite a long time and produced novel problems. But I want to assure you, Bishop, that at least from the standpoint of RSU and TEFRO, we are very much on top of that case. I remember vividly, not too long ago, 3 years ago now, we sent a big delegation of RSU to the town that's next to Karamoja, in Teso. You were there, Chair. I don't remember the town. What was the town? The one next to Katakwi. We came to Katakwi. That's in Teso. But we are so close, Karamoja, and we invited people from all over, and they came to discuss some of these issues. Two, we have in RCU leaders, bishops, who lead the different regions. My Lord, Bishop Samuel Egesa, is chair of the eastern end of our country, dealing with the peace issues of this kind. And we have held so many discussions, conversations, in Mbale, in Soroti, I believe even in Karamoja itself, where we have called all the people of those areas to discuss precisely this. Now, obviously, we cannot give the answers, but we can start the conversation. And that's what we have done. And that conversation needs to be deepened and widened so that you, the people, in close range with the issues, can begin to give us and share with us what likely solutions we can have. Bishop, you also raised the issue of education by religious faith. Again, that's a historic thing. The missionaries came here, they brought schools, they attached them to labels of their own persuasions. Mengo, Gayaza, Buddha were tagged with a certain faith. St. Peter's, Tororo, Nomagunga, Nabingo, Kisubi were also tagged. Then later on, the Muslim faith also came up with certain schools. There is a girls' school next to Chambogo, and so on. And that worked for some time, quite well. Problem with it was to deepen the fault lines between the faiths, to the extent that in the first independence government, Milton Obote took a decision, deliberate decision, that all schools will be made public. No more missionary schools. That worked for some time until another decision was taken to reverse that. So some of these issues, Bishop, are the teething problems of a young nation. We are not even 50, not yet. And in the life of a nation, that's almost like toddlers. We are still creeping. And some of these issues, unfortunately, still afflict us. The more reason we believe that we should be talking about them, should be dialoguing about them. Because if we don't, they will be festering all over the place, and we'll never get the handle of them. Bishop Uyondo, land, big issue. We go again back to the history of this country. 1900, at the turn of that century, the colonials have come, the missionaries are here. They do what they call the 1900 agreement. And out of that came any number of issues, including land, the one we are talking about today. We have inherited that legacy of the colonial manipulation, if you will, of the issues that we ourselves should be talking about. Again, I want to say that this is a peculiar issue which belongs to dialogue. We are now of age, so to speak, to begin to set our own agenda. And how best to do it than to call all of us, like we are now here in this room, at a round table. And in our dialogue, that deep dialogue that we are talking about, land is a big theme over which we need consensus. Land issues and problems are not peculiar to Buganda. They're probably more poignant there. But as the lady said just now, everywhere else we have those issues. Let's bring them, all of them, to the round table. And let's put our heads together and see how we come out with this. At least that's the suggestion, the strategy that we in IRSU and TEFU have adopted. Bishop Oyet, what a delight that you have added a D to our own D. Ours is called ND, National Dialogue. Bishop Oyet has added another D, National Development Dialogue. I accept what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. But may I add this? What you're saying is not diametrically opposed to what we are saying in the National Dialogue. We have 15 themes. Development is one of them. The minerals the oil, the natural resource of this country that have been discovered and that will continue to be discovered. We are saying bring those to the table. Let's discuss them. How do we distribute them? How do we own them? How do we apportion them? How do we get the fruit and the juice out of them for everybody? Development there. They are not opposed. They are supplementary. So, what we are saying, Bishop Oyet, is that this is not mutually exclusive. Your idea is not exclusive to our idea. It is supplementary. They can go together. Basically, I go back, I believe it's Isaiah, which says, come, let us reason together. Thank you.
Chairman Tefu, Chief Justice Ogola, for those responses. And we will bring up the others again. These have already been taken for the breakout sessions, and they'll come back in their reports. We still have a number of speakers to go through, and then you do have an opportunity for questions again after that. Our next speaker is none other than the Betty Kamia, Honorable Turomwe, Inspector General of Government, on the role of religious leaders. But before, we'd really love to hear some Matali, just to help us to relax. Betty, when you come on, we'll be happy to hear from you. You have the floor. Young gentlemen all. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Sallallahu ala Muhammad. The second microphone. Okay. Sallallahu ala Muhammad. Salli ya Rabbil alamin. Ismuhu Twa wa Yasin. Rabbil alamin. Ismuhu مولانا صلي يا رب العالمين اسمه رسولي مولانا اسمه مولانا طلع البدر علينا بثنيات الوداع برجع بمقوانه اسمه مولانا وجب شكر علينا مدى لله داعي مولانا اسمه مولانا أيها المبعوث فينا جئت به الأمر المطاع سنصبر بابا جني اسمه مولانا طلع البدر علينا بثنيات الوداع سبو مفوتي ويوغندا اسمه سبو شيخ مباجه وبارو muri mugokora no wano mu Uganda itarari jasi kansa bange mwebare kujalai maulana esmo maulana abakulisitu abange mwebaro kujolwale n'abarokole kyeyamani wamwera mulabyawo maulana esmo kulira b'emikwano kyetwagala ffe okubeera obumundo wano mu Uganda enzikiriza tezitwawula balungi ab'emikwano swallia maulana esmo Allah twaha Allah twaha Allah twaha Allah twaha Deputy Mufuti Sebono webaro kuja Allah twaha Mufuti wa Uganda no webaro kuja Allah twaha Oli musajja omukugwe w'ekitiibwa era yasoma ebitabo gwe kulira b'emikwano atayawula sebo mufuti barakalla itatolina webale Allah twa abalangira mwe mwebale okuja n'abambeja mukoze omulimu n'abakyala gwe mu Uganda mama webale okuja naye abakulisitu mikwano yibambi mwebale omulimu n'abalokola b'Oluganda nammwe mwebale omulimu amadini gayamba gano waneera mu Uganda gakuteekamu erinnya okumanya oyo Katonda n'ababaka balungi ab'ebitiibwa era abe mumanyi Yesu abange tumumanyi nga nnabbi ab'emikwano ne Muhammad abange tumumanyi balungi ab'Oluganda Allah twa balawo tata webale nnyo osodokisi webale tata webale nnyo balungi ab'ebitiibwa ekyo nno mmwe kye twagala wano mu Uganda mikwano tetuboolagana olw'amadiini balungi ab'ebitiibwa twewenga ebitiibwa Allah twa amina 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 twebaze nnyo Allah amina yenanyini buyinza Katonda yatutonda mmwe tukwamaganenga twagalanenga balungi ab'emikwano tuli musaayi gumu abange amadini tegatwawula sebo amina b'Oluganda amina kadho wange mwebale kadhi wa Kampala nze nsanyusa nnyo okubalaba mmwe amina njagala obugala wab'emikwano iyi mwebale anti olwaleero mmwe nno lwasanyu kadhi weruwero naawe otuuse kitange amina abasumba mwebale okujja amina iyi kazi wonna kasongola amina twebaze Mungu ow'ekitiibwa owawa kisosebo nawe taata webale nnyo abasiraamu mmwe olwaleero olunaku lwa ssanyu kadhi wawa kiso webale sebo taata ng'okoze omulimu webale kadhi waluwe seko webale nnyo amina amina sebo omukulu barakallah religious afeyo wange mu Uganda regional kazi owa East Uganda webale amina amina Allah amina sekase simba nze nsanyusa nnyo okukulaba gwe amina twebaze Mungu wa kitiibwa amina twagala n'emikwano amina naye seeka barakallah mukwatiridde obusiraamu nno wano mu Uganda amina Allahu nuru kone tali eryamufutya wabe ebikwano sabula amina amina Allahu amina 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 Allah nabiyuna rasul amina amina Allahu nuru. Thank you very much. That is Umat Salam Kampala Matal Group, our East African #1 team. Minister tuongere muko katunataka minister bannange lawo masalala maulana insanyusa okulaba gwe beti insanyusa nnyo okukulaba nnyabo beti kamya mama minisita omutebenkevu maulana webala okujja gwe minisita nze webala akatuuko mpate obusiraamu buno bukwagala nnyo nnyabo w'ekitiibwa era bwagala nnyo pulezidenti Museveni oyo maama omundabiranga era omugamba ayite wamufuti ebyetaago kitiibwa omuzikiti gwolaba ogwo kwetaaga okuddaabirizibwa tutuusize eddoboozi maama ayite mufuti oyo batebengerera batuule mukwano tuba abasiraamu tutebenkedde ddi ow'ekitiibwa amina Allahumma salli ala omuzikiti ogwo mufuti nimbyo w'ekitiibwa bye yatusuubiza bikolekoyo pulezidenti abasiraamu wano mu uganda ffe tumwagala kankusiibule nakomawo eddaamu ab'emikwano bawumaso.
Thank you, Matali Troop. That was fantastic. And we hope you'll come back and sing for us again. I think the issue of the wonderful mosque that we have is really, I think we all need to come together to help. The Gaddafi Mosque is huge. It has very nice infrastructure, but it requires renovation all the time. And I think we have to come together as Uganda and work on our mosque because it belongs to all of us. Thank you. Yes, Honorable Betty Chiromwe Kamia. She's going to talk on the role of religious. Hello, okay, it has come back. In promoting active citizen participation in social accountability, now in your position as the Inspector General of Government. Welcome, Honorable Betty. People online, we are with you. You can write in the chat room. We'll be happy to get your questions answered as well. But thank you so much for participating. And we are looking forward to getting your observations and comments on the issues we address here today. Honorable Betty.
Thank you very much. I seek leave, Madam Chair, to take off my mask because I'm well distanced from everybody. So you are safe from me and I'm safe from you. The Chairman, Council of Presidents, very much for inviting me to this fourth Interreligious Council of Uganda Consultative Assembly and to particularly celebrate with you 20 years of multi to Parliament, which in turn appropriates its budget. And if Peter moves with me, I will not read them all, but on the screen you can see the functions of the Inspectorate of Government, but I will summarize that our main mandate is to foster the adherence to the rule of law and principles of natural justice in Uganda, and to eliminate the elimination of corruption, abuse of authority, and abuse of public office. And in order to do that, we are empowered to investigate any act, omission, advice, decision, or to recommendation by a public officer or any other authority. This mandate, ladies and gentlemen, gives the Inspector General of Government jurisdiction over every public officer or person who benefits from public funds, except the President, who is protected by the Constitution while he or she is in office. This means that the Inspectorate of Government can and should call any public officer to order if they conduct themselves contrary to the rule of law or abuse of their office in any way. Any deviation from the rule of law, from the principles of natural justice, from fair and efficient and good governance constitutes corruption and liable under the laws of Uganda. But the Inspectorate of Government is not the only institution that was established by the laws of Uganda to watchdog over the rule of law. There are other institutions, and I will not read them, but you can quickly say, oh my God, it's not there. Some are creatures of the Constitution, like the three arms of government, the Inspectorate, and the Office of the Auditor General, CID, and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Others are creatures of parliamentary acts, and there are very many laws. This document will be available to you through your different channels of communication when you need it. And some are creatures of executive action, like the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity, State House Anti-Corruption Unit, and the Zero Tolerance to Corruption Authority, to corruption policy. Sadly, in spite of all the foresight, the effort, the resource invested in establishing the framework to fight in order to eliminate corruption, corruption is growing in leaps and bounds to now pandemic proportions. And this brings me directly to the theme of this presentation. What is the role of religious leaders in promoting active citizen participation in social accountability? Before I go to discuss that, I'll give you a brief situation analysis of the state of corruption in this country. Studies by most anti-corruption agencies and activists in the world, including the World Governance Index, Africa Governance Index, the United States Think Tank for Peace, Transparency International, Corruption Perception Index, Afrobarometer, and the global anti-corruption efforts, they have consistently listed Uganda among countries with the highest levels of corruption in the world. Oh, that's a bit behind, but later you will see a table which shows you what has happened in the last 5 years. Oh, there's a table? Yes, in the last 5 years. Studies have been made and evaluations and surveys listing the whole world since 2016 up to now. And Uganda continues performing very badly. On the average, on a scale of 1 to 100, Uganda scores roughly 27, 26, 28%. Mind you, there are countries which score 97% and countries which score 70, 50. But Uganda scores consistently average of 27, 26, or 28%. This is a very low score. And when you go to rank the performance, Uganda has been ranked number 151 out of 176, 79 countries that were surveyed. Uganda performs very, very badly between 150 and 140s. Now, I want you to put yourselves in the situation of a parent. You send your child to school, and every year for 5 years, they come with a report averaging 27% marks in each class from P1 to P5. And when they rank them, your child is number 151 out of 180. How would you feel? That is how we should feel about Uganda, and that is how we should, like parents, do something about it. The other table shows you the estimated cost of corruption in Uganda. The Inspectorate of Government, with support, financial support from the GIZ, undertook a study to establish the estimated cost of corruption. And it was done this year, 2020-2021. And the study shows that Uganda loses up to 20 trillion shillings per year, 20 trillion shillings. But that includes time lost by absenteeism and also environmental degradation, the trees and forests that we cut and the wetlands that we abuse. But if you take the conventional corruption of taking money, it is estimated to be about 10 trillion shillings lost every year to corruption. I want us to pause for a second and think about what 10 trillion shillings can do in Uganda if it was saved from corruption. We have, and I want to put this for people to understand it very well. Let's take it to the parish model. And I want to thank the lady who talked about the parish model. I'm also a total convert of the parish model, because the parish model means that government is bringing planning down to the parish level. Now, there have about 10,000 parishes in Uganda. We have about 10,000 parishes. And if we save 10 trillion shillings a year and divide it among the parishes of Uganda, each parish would be able to get about 1 billion shillings per year. Now I'm thinking of like a small parish of Runguja. And if it was to be injected 1 billion shillings, each of you think about your parish. And if your parish were to receive 1 billion shillings a year, for you parishioners to decide what to do with it. And this is what I thought for Runguja. If in year one, we put that 1 billion shillings in Lunguja Parish Circle, can you imagine 1 billion shillings in Lunguja Parish Circle for parishioners to borrow money at very, very low interest rate, to do business, to take their children to school, to improve their households? What would happen in that 1 year? And if the second year we use our allocation of 1 billion shillings, we could buy laptops For each student from P1 to university, 1 billion shillings to a parish can do that. Every student from P1 to university, tertiary institute could get a laptop so that we erase the disparity of those who can learn online and those who cannot. And if in year 3, we used our billion to extend electricity to each parish, and year 4, to provide piped water to each parish, and year 5, to provide a well-equipped health facility, complete with a resident doctor's residence, wouldn't we be able to transform a parish in 5 years? Ladies and gentlemen, this transformation is achievable. But we need to save the 10 trillion shillings that is lost in corruption per year. This is a war that we have to fight. And this is a war that all of us need to join. And with the combined effort of all the above laws and institutions, the war against corruption has mainly centered on whistleblowers, tracking a few suspects, investigate them, prosecute them, most often not even convict them for lack of evidence. So, the big problem we must ask ourselves, with all this infrastructure to fight corruption, with all the legislative and administrative infrastructure that we add on year after year, because even this year, we just amended the PPDA Act and the President just assented to it. Every year, we create a new law or a new institution to tighten the war against corruption, but it continues to grow in leaps and bounds, and the statistics remain as I show you on the street. So what is the problem? We must go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, what is the problem? Why isn't corruption diminishing, reducing, in spite of the effort and resource that is put there? I want us to consider the question whether the designated warriors against corruption, I mean us, are ideologically competent to fight the war. In short, are we the people fighting the war, that is the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, and all these institutions and civil society? Do we feel the pain of corruption? Do we understand the cost of corruption so that we should put in our everything? Is it really our war as the elite discussing corruption in our air-conditioned boardrooms, five-star hotels, chauffeur-driven, top-of-the-range vehicles with our six-figure salaries and guaranteed health care insurance policies for ourselves and our families? Do we know the pain of corruption that we should pour our whole hearts in the war? That is the question that I want to put to us. And the answer is, whether we lose this war or we win it, and we are losing it, we still get our salaries. And we even ask for raises. We still get our emoluments. When the car gets old, they will buy me a new car. Most people in this room and in all the boardrooms that are occupied in the hotels in Kampala discussing all sorts of things, they are not victims of corruption. They don't even know the pain of corruption. Because when they go to Mulago, they don't die. They get somebody to fly them to India or Nairobi, or they go to one of the private hospitals in Kampala and get medicine. So all of us, most of us who discuss corruption in these air-conditioned boardrooms, We are not victims of corruption. We don't understand corruption. We don't feel the pain of corruption. So whose war is it? Is it our war? If I can't put in my everything, if it's not a matter of do or die for me, is it my war? That's why we are asking, whose war is the war of corruption? Maybe to make us understand it a little bit better, I will take you to the war of apartheid in South Africa. Whose war was it? There are many Europeans who actually supported the war on apartheid. They helped. They did whatever they could. But was it their war? It was not their war because they did not suffer the humiliation. They did not suffer the segregation. They did not suffer the pain of apartheid. If a black man and a white man, friends, comrades, worked together and went to the hotel, and they told the white man, "Sir, you may enter," and they told the black man, "Sir, you may not enter," the white man may say, "I will stay with my friend. I will go away with my friend out of solidarity." But he will not be the one to suffer the pain of humiliation and segregation. So whose war was the pain of apartheid, and whose war is the pain of corruption, against corruption? Ladies and gentlemen, to understand ownership of a war, whose war in Uganda, by the way, means nanyini mufu yani. Ani nanyini mufu is what I'm asking, by whose war. For those who don't understand Uganda, loosely translated, it means who is the owner of this dead body, so that you touch the filthiest part, the most, because people will come to help you with the funeral arrangements. But who is the bereaved? Whose owner, who is the bereaved, so that we help the bereaved? And this is the question I'm putting to us all. Whose war is the war against corruption? In Uganda, we have people who have owned wars. If you're driving and you knock down a border person, you will know whose war it is to mess with the border. Before you know it, they will surround you and even lynch you. They have done it. They don't even know who is riding the border, whose it is. It is their war because you're messing with the border person. They own the war. In the village, when you steal a chicken, people turn themselves into a mob and they serve mob justice because they understand the pain. They associate with losing a chicken. So they will serve justice, mob justice. They own the war. But when you say Mr. X or Mrs. Y has stolen billions on your village, has stolen billions of Uganda shillings, and is taken to court and is taken to prison, that very villagers will demonstrate and say, leave our son alone, leave our daughter alone, because they do not associate with those billions. It is not their billions. It is government billions. Sometimes I was talking to some councillors in Entebbe, and I told them about stealing billions, and they said, "Abana mubareke beyiye," because she did not associate herself with this money. Mubareke bakore ki? Beyiye. And I told her, do you realize that beyi is mu lusuku lwo? They are in your garden. You want them to steal, but you need to understand that it is your garden. Until you appreciate that they steal from your plantation, you will not do anything about it. In fact, if they are apprehended, you will riot and say, let them go. This is our son and this is our daughter. So we need to own the war. And this is where I want to talk about the role of religious leaders. Religious leaders, I am so happy to be talking to you about this passion which I feel in my heart, of rebranding the war against corruption from being the war of the president, the war of the government, the war of the IG, the war of CID, the war of the RDC, to turning it, rebrand it into the war of the people, the war of the citizen. And so, the new regime at the Inspectorate of Government, of which, by the grace of God, I was asked to lead now 2 months, we intend to continue with the old practice of chasing after the corrupt, of investigating, prosecuting, and even sending them to jail and recovering their loot. But more importantly, we now want to focus on mobilizing and recruiting all Ugandans to turn this war into their own war, and therefore adopt the strategy of prevention, because this way we shall be preventing corruption. You remember, ladies and gentlemen, when we fought the war against AIDS and the war against COVID-19 now, those two pandemics that we are fighting, it was necessary to first unmask the enemy so that you give it a face, you give him a face, so that people know whom they are fighting. You remember how we unmasked the face of AIDS, how we unmasked the face of COVID, so that everybody knows what AIDS is, how you get it, and how to avoid it. Similarly, with the war of corruption, we need to unmask corruption, to give it a face, so that people understand what corruption is. After unmasking corruption, then we take it to every classroom, to every place of worship, to every house, to every bedroom, everywhere, every place of entertainment, so that everybody can recognize corruption and condemn it and despise it and shun it. Now, I want to give you the face of corruption. The face of corruption is that lifestyle which cannot be accounted for by people's known sources of income. Corruption is that expensive car which does not match your salary. Corruption is that mansion you live in for which you cannot account for. Corruption are those malls and arcades which you own but you cannot account for by your known source of income. And corruption is sending your children to international schools or schools abroad when your source of income cannot account for that. That is the face of corruption. And everybody should now be curious to know people's sources of income, because they could be playing in your plantation. They could be enjoying that lavish lifestyle, but getting it from your plantation. We want children to recognize illicit wealth at home and ask their parents, Daddy, can we afford this? Because they told us that people should afford their lifestyles. Can we afford this? If you say as a family, we are going for a holiday to Dubai, your child should be able to ask you, because she has heard everybody say this, the preacher say it, the radio say it, can we afford this on your salary? When I said this sometime, those of you who follow social media, you saw what they said. Oh, mukazi taina chakora, tamanchi agamba, she's stupid. She wants our children now to start spying on us. But remember, when we were fighting AIDS, we went down to the 5-year-olds and started telling them things we never would have told children before, how you catch AIDS. And when we were fighting COVID, we took children out of school and locked them in the houses and told them how you catch COVID. And so, if we want to fight corruption, the children must know what corruption is right from home. This idea of fakumudalago, because that's what people are thinking, fakumudalago, in English it means mind your business, must be outdated. In this war against corruption, everybody must be his or her brothers and sisters' keeper. And so my call on religious leaders is to empower the masses, to empower your congregation about the cost, the pain, and the face of corruption, and rally them to realize that they are the victims and to own this war. Another thing, and I'm about to finish, the time I was given, I was given 20 minutes, and my presentation is exactly 20 minutes. People are crying, the public, that we hear you busy running after small fish, mukene, silver fish. Give us some big fish. We want to see you catch mukene, then we shall know that IGG, you are busy on Nakarema. Give us some big fish, so that Kano Nakarema, so that we know that you are working. And the big fish will roll. But I want to tell you that people who are corrupt, they cover their trails so well. It is very hard to find a signature. I received $1 billion shillings from the road contract. You will never find somebody who has signed it or catch them receiving the money. They cover their trail so well. It is the small fish whom they leave there, who sign, who take the checks. The big fish are very difficult to catch. So when the whistleblower brings them to me, I do some investigations, I take them to court. And Justice Emeritus Ogola will tell you, court wants evidence. Adduce evidence beyond reasonable doubt. And the case collapses in court. All the big corruption cases, they collapse in court because the judge wants, according to the law of Uganda, adduce evidence beyond reasonable doubt. Now, if you didn't see the man take money, if you didn't see him sign anywhere, or the woman, you have no evidence, and the judge says, go home. And the person comes back home, and they say, Baba Tade, they have even bribed the judge. They have not bribed the judge, but there's not enough evidence. That is the problem. That is why, going back to the drawing board, Baganda say, Chibukira wagulu, otega wansi, empungu, teryabire. If I can't get evidence, because you didn't sign anywhere, I will go and audit your lifestyle. That will be my evidence. Show me how you're able to build that house. That is where the lifestyle audit, that is how the lifestyle audit is the one that is going to win the war against corruption. We want to mainstream the war in all religious programs, in all civic and other programs. We want to mainstream the war. On Thursday, next Thursday, the 9th of December 2021 this year, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate the International Anti-Corruption Day, which was so designated by the United Nations General Assembly. And we have done that for many years. And many activities are being planned. Some of them, I'm sure, that you have followed them, or you are following them all over the country by both state actors and non-state actors. But I want to tell you some of the activities we have planned for this week, which we call the Anti-Corruption Week, leading to the International Anti-Corruption Day. I wish to propose to religious leaders, and for me, inviting me here, and even scheduling this assembly on this particular day, in this particular time, is the work of God. May his name be praised. Because I would like to propose that on Friday, the 3rd of December, all mosques in the country, with due respect to your eminence, should mold their preaching and their message around corruption, the evil of corruption, the pain, the victims of corruption. They should also talk about the perpetrators, the beneficiaries, and the practitioners, because most people who are designated officially to fight corruption are actually the practitioners and the beneficiaries and perpetrators. I would like to propose that on Saturday, the 4th of December, all churches of the Seventh-day Adventists should mold their message around the international effort to fight corruption by giving them the statistics that I'm giving you today. And on Sunday, the 5th of December, I would like to propose to this august assembly that all churches, through the media, in the churches themselves, in the radios, and even in the mosques on the radios, and all media, please mold your messages on the pain and the cost and the victims of corruption. Friday, the 3rd of December, Saturday, the 4th of December, Sunday, the 5th of December, kindly, those being days of worship that fall in the International Anti-Corruption Week, kindly join in this commemoration by talking about corruption. And I beg this august assembly to pass a resolution that all places of worship will mold their message on the evils and the cost of corruption and mask its face using the information that I will give you at the end of this presentation. The Minister of Local Government, I had a discussion with him, and we agreed that all local councils, from Local Council 1 to Local Council 5, will hold official council sessions to discuss corruption, the evils of corruption, the cost of corruption, the victims of corruption, and the opportunity cost, which I told you about, the opportunity cost of saving that money that we lose every day. On the 7th of December, or tomorrow I'm informed, or sometime soon, Parliament will also officially commemorate the International Anti-Corruption Day by discussing all these things. And finally, on the 9th of December, His Excellency the President of Uganda will be the chief guest at the occasion of commemorating the International Anti-Corruption Day in Kololo ceremonial grounds. And it is there that he will officially launch the lifestyle audit campaign and call upon all Ugandans to be vigilant, to be watchful, to despise, and to isolate corruption. We intend to adopt this campaign vigorously and roll it out. Last week, I told you that God works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. Last week, the entire media fraternity were in this hall like you are. Bishop Serada, you were there. Pastor Serada, you were there. You are my witness. All the owners of the media met in this room, and by the grace of God, they invited me to come and talk about corruption. And I said all this to them. And we propose to them that all media houses should also convey this message to their congregations. And last Monday, Cabinet discussed and led the way by discussing it. This means that we have begun the process of mobilizing the entire nation to fight the war on corruption. People think that corruption happens only in government. That is not true. Corruption happens in private sector as well. And as you know, in all churches, mosques, and places of worship, there is corruption. Sadly, but true, corruption is everywhere. In the private sector, just as in government, procurement officers inflate prices of goods and services. They buy air. Human resource officers and managers recruit not the best candidate, but those who pay for their services. They ask for bribes for small services, which should be free. Secretaries and office attendants, they hide files until you pay something for your file to be discovered immediately, or to make an appointment for you to see their boss, or to be put on the list of who to travel with the boss. At the end of the day, this corruption in government and in private sector makes our economy very expensive. It makes it less competitive for investment. For if the Thank you very much. I am just winding up, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm summarizing that corruption is not in government alone, it is in private sector as well. And when you put it together, we all suffer because it makes our economy less competitive, and we suffer, all of us. This is a clarion call. This is a clarion call for everybody to get involved in the war against corruption. I have asked Mr. Kitakule, please, we have a flyer which I've sent to you and which can be displayed, which you can use, which is much simplified. It's a one-pager, a Q&A, which you can use to reach your congregation. I thank you very much for your attention, and I say all this for God and my country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Inspector General of Government, Honorable Betty Romwe Kamia, for that really very enlightening on a very, very important topic for Uganda. Your figures, I mean 27%, it's not even pass mark anywhere in any language. And then we look forward to looking at the lifestyle model that you are pushing now. And yeah, let us just pray that it will. There's no time for question now, it's time for lunch. So I'm honored to invite you for lunch. I don't know, are you going to give the details? Yes.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody has listened, and as see you, we are part of government to fight corruption, and corruption will start with us. We have Bishop Ruere, who's part of the zero tolerance fight against corruption. So we are at it, IGG, and we're actually playing our part, and we also fight corruption within our churches and mosques. I hope everybody has a card. There is a card with the green letters. There is a card with the red letters. The green card, you'll be able to have your meal upstairs, and so they'll receive you at that door with your green card. If you have a red card, you go downstairs. Let's not confuse. Look at your color. And I know there's my friend George. George, you'll be helped. One of our, yes? Coupon. Okay, they are telling me coupon. Name Manika card, Kamiru card. This is what you're going to use. So if it has red, then you'll be able to go downstairs. And then if you have green, you'll be able to have your meals upstairs. But I think they are serving around there. But I want to ask Dr. Mate to pray for our lunch, lest it chokes us, isn't it?
Thank you. Let me invite all of us to stand and we pray for our lunch. Our gracious, our loving Father in heaven, thank you for leading us in all the deliberations of today's program. And now we are going for a lunch break. We pray, Father, that you will bless our lunch, the hands which prepared it, and that you will bless us with the nourishment to serve you. And remember those who are hungry. And use us to extend a blessing to someone. This is our prayer.